Hey everybody, welcome to yet again another Making a Geek. I am Damien DeCarlo. I am with Mr. James Creviston.
How's it going? How's it going? I'm very excited.
Me too, man. Very excited. There's been a lot going on with me, some work stuff and life stuff. But you just went recently somewhere. You went to Alaska.
I did. I went to Alaska to go do stand up. I did stand up two different shows there. I was there for 3 days, and it was amazing. It was very wild. It was a wild adventure. They they don't kid around when they say Alaska is the wilderness. There is a lot more trees and open stuff and rivers. I mean, literally, it's probably the most untouched place that I can think that I've ever been. I've been around the world. I've been to a lot of places, but I feel like no, that's probably the purest version of the world that exists because there's hardly any people there and there's
Right.
wilderness for everything, and it was just beautiful. Now there are mosquitoes that are like as big as my hand that were constantly attacking me,
Just
and
landing on your
and
head.
yeah, they're going everywhere. They wanted to eat me. And they probably, if like three of them could have like landed on me, they probably could have got me and just carried me off and taken me back to wherever they wanted,
Right.
Morbius style and drink my blood. But
It's
but
Morbin time.
yeah, but besides that, it was okay. The only other bad part was that there was like there was sunlight for like 21 hours out of 24 hours, so that made it hard to sleep. Yeah, so.
For our viewers and listeners that do not know, James is a stand-up comedian. Are you doing that full time, or is this just like a part-time thing?
I mean, it doesn't pay all my bills if that's what you're asking, but
Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I was wondering if it did.
yeah, yeah. No, no. Most of my bills are paid by writing. I'm a more of a comedy writer and that kind of stuff. But stand up is a big part of what I do too. It just isn't. It doesn't pay the bills as much. Believe it or not, guys. Unless you're Kevin Hart, you're probably not making a great living as a stand up comedian. If you don't have a Netflix special, you don't have an album, and people don't know your name, you're probably not making a living as a stand up comedian, even if you are a great stand up comedian. So.
Right, you could be really good. You just need to get yourself out there more and more, and meet the right people, and they'll put you through to work.
Or you just need to get billboards like Angelina's. I'm learning watching the Angelina series right now. So.
That would be all you have to do. We'll just call it
Yeah.
James. James T. Well, that's awesome, man. I'm glad that you went out and did some of your stand-up comedy. When I think of Alaska, I think of obviously coldness and mountains filled with snow. It's all I can think of in my head, and just right off the top of my head. But I could never picture what we're about to talk about taking place in Alaska, which would be Spider-Man. I can't picture him swinging through Alaska, but you never know. Maybe one movie, one
I
day,
don't.
we'll see him go to Alaska.
I don't know what he would swing connect to. I mean, yeah, the trees are tall, but I don't think there's enough for him. See, the thing about Spider-Man is he wouldn't exist outside of a city scape. He couldn't. Like it doesn't work that way. Like I don't even know if he'd do well in L.A. We don't have tall enough buildings. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah, he'd be
So
swinging pretty close to the ground,
yeah.
bumping into
So
traffic.
yeah, yeah, hitting Ubers and stuff like people just yelling at him. Yeah.
But now that we're talking about Spider-Man, this is the most horrible segue. I just wanted to talk about. I could never picture Spider-Man swinging in Alaska. I think there's actually a meme I just saw recently that made me chuckle. Just one of the Tobey Maguire ones, or maybe it was Andrew Garfield ones, showing Spider-Man like swinging to the top of maybe the Empire State Building, and the caption was like, "What, Spider-Man? What are you attaching yourself to?" It's like one of the tallest buildings. He's just
Yeah.
swinging to the very top.
I would assume that he shoots his web to the top and then uses some kind of circular rotation to get up to the top. That's would be my guess if I had to
That's a
guess
good. Yeah,
how he
that's
did it.
a
But he
very
could also shoot and then pull himself, right? Like so,
right.
slingshot himself. So that might be the other way he gets to the top easily. So
I can
okay,
recall most of the Spider-Man video games where you could do
yes,
that as a feature or
yeah,
tactic. But anyway, I really, really enjoyed what we're about to talk about. But what we're going to talk about tonight is Spider-Man No Way Home. And that was released back in December. And now it is streaming on, I believe, just Amazon Prime and not quite yet on Disney Plus, to my recollection. But yeah, great movie. I want to get into like a review. This is something that was long overdue for Making a Geek. We needed to
yeah.
talk about this, what it meant for the Spidey cinematic verse, and as well as what it meant to comic book fans. So let's go off, you know, from the beginning, what were some of your thoughts, James? And I'll bounce it off of you as to initial reaction to this film in terms of like the trailer and then starting to see the film. What was going through your head?
Well, the trailer had me excited because I mean we had just come off of Far From Home, and we have the death of Mysterio and it getting blamed on Peter. That's like the last scene you see from Far From Home, and then now Spider-Man is public enemy number one, right? We
Right.
have the J. Jonah Jameson moment of Spider-Man's a villain. He's the bad guy. Nobody should be looking out for him. He's a crook in a mask. You know, like he does all the
It's a
things.
very
That's a
good
terrible.
impression.
I was about to say that's the worst J. Jonah Jameson impression ever. But but we get all that, and then we get this kid whose life is about to change. He's about to graduate high school. He's getting his dream school. He's been an Avenger. He's done all these great things are about to happen, and now it's about to be all ripped away from him, and he's got to figure out how to not hurt the people that he loves, save his future, and all while also trying to save the multiverse again, right? So now
Right.
we've got this thing happening, and because he just came off of being with Doctor Strange and Iron Man and stopping Thanos and all that stuff. Now he's got to figure out this other. It's like, okay, this is crazy, and I was excited for it. I didn't know. I was very excited that they brought back villains from the old films. Like I'm glad that they
Yes.
did all of them. That for me was the big pieces. Um, I knew the Osborn turn was going to happen at some point because that happened to the other Spider-Mans and the other Spider-Mans. And then I also loved, if you haven't seen this movie yet, sorry, spoilers, but they bring back the other two Spider-Mans to help, and that to me was the crowning moments
Right.
of that film, to have all three of them together and you're like, wow. And the funny thing is people kind of poo-poo on Amazing Spider-Man, the Andrew Garfield ones, and obviously they are the secondaries because everyone saw Tobey Maguire's, that even goth dancing Tobey Maguire, right, which we don't want to talk about.
We won't talk too much about
Yeah, we won't
that.
talk about that, but he's to everybody else of our generation that was Spider-Man. So the
Right.
kids' generation now is Tom Holland. So a lot of people forget that Andrew Garfield was Spider-Man at one point for two films, and
Right.
two great films. And they did a fantastic job of bringing it together, bringing all the characters back. We got Jamie Foxx again as Electro,
Right.
Thomas Hayden as Sandman, and like we got all those guys, and it was like, this is amazing. And you see that I think it's a Batman line. I think it's the Joker line that he says to Batman, like, just one bad day and you would be me, right? Like, I think
Right.
that's the
Right.
line. And you see that's exactly the case for every single one of Spider-Man's villains.
Right.
Just one bad day, and that's who they became, right? It was the bad day that turned them to that. And the same thing for Spider-Man, just one bad day, right? If he had chosen to kill the guy who killed Uncle Ben, now he's not good guy Spider-Man. He's this other Spider-Man, right? And so we see that dichotomy, and it's really good because they actually did a thing that you don't normally get in any kind of comic book stories or comic things. They humanized the villains to the point where they're not really villains. You're seeing these are people who had a goal. Their goal was subverted, and most of them, some way or form, blame Spider-Man for that action, right?
Right. There's some sort of responsibility that he carries now at this point. Tom Holland's character feels, wow, all these spider versions of himself are responsible in one way or another of these people's demise. And I think that was really cool to bring out because Tom Holland was so perfectly casted now. And it's so funny because I was watching this with my girlfriend, and it dawned on me as I was watching it that this kid is a perfect Spider-Man. I kind of mentioned to her, I was like, in the sense that now we have gotten to a point where he was a kid, he got into still, his high school years, and now it's almost like he's grown up drastically in this last one. Like it was like the Spider-Man I knew from the
Right.
comics, and so it was almost like prep work to get to this point. And this whole motive to right the wrongs, and so to speak, of these villains dying in the other universe was just it was so Tom Holland to be, hey guys, shucks, I got to put this right. I don't know if I would see that from the other Spider-Man, in the other movies. But it fit very well with this character, I thought.
Yeah. The only thing I wish they would have done, and I know that they didn't, and I know probably they didn't have the time or the ability, but I would have liked to see the Rhino again because for me that
That
is a
was kind
fun
of cool.
character.
They
Yeah,
they made reference, I believe, didn't they?
they do reference it, but you don't see them and stuff. And
Right.
then and we also get the Eddie Brock cameo, right? So we do
Yeah.
get the Venom cameo, but then I think he gets sucked back at the end, right? Is that right? If I remember
Yeah,
right?
and so I think at that end it was supposed to be he came into this universe but then went to a different universe, I want to say.
Yeah,
I
that's what it
kind of
seemed
forgot how
like.
that went, but yeah, it was just like literally just a cameo, but I think it was hinting at the fact that it wouldn't be Tom Hardy's Venom that would fight Tom Holland.
Well, and because they also have Flash in this universe, like, but he's a different Flash version of Flash who does become Venom at one point. But they do, and he does leave a piece of the symbiote behind. So there are
Right.
opportunities to do all the storylines of that stuff, So that part is exciting, and then, but we do get this one of the saddest endings where Peter's friends totally forget about him. Right, he's not part of that anymore. He's
Right.
now by himself, which is the hardest in any of the comics. It's the hardest when Peter has no one. Right, when Batman has no one, we get it. We're like, it's Batman. He doesn't need anyone. Right,
Right.
but Spider-Man needs that because he's still a kid. I mean, ultimately, yeah, we see him grow up and marry Mary Jane and do all this other stuff, but he's ultimately in most parts of the comic book universe, he's a kid, and he without anyone. You know what it's like when you're a kid and you feel like you have nobody. That's a difficult situation to be put in, and now you have these powers that are some of the greatest powers in the universe, and you're alone. That's tough, man. I don't know that part I think got me. Well, Aunt May dying. But besides that,
Right.
though, that part got me as well, where I was like, and then also, the end where this other Spider-Mans go away. That part also got me where
Yeah, there was a lot of
so
moments. I'll agree with you. That got me kind of choked up. It was a very emotional movie because it paid tribute to not only all the Spider fans, but then the Spider-Man fans that were into the movies. So the
yeah,
young kids that have now grown up get to see their old heroes again come back, and the way they came back was just so like touching. It was like, wow, this is a lot deeper than other Spider-Man movies.
yeah.
I
Nope.
will say that this whole thing with because you brought it up, the Aunt May dying, that was something I didn't see coming, obviously, until it was coming pretty close to the scene. But it wasn't just that I had that moment, oh, she's gonna die. It's holy crap, this is exactly what was supposed to happen in this universe. This is supposed to be Uncle Ben. In this version, it's actually Aunt
Yeah.
May. So that was huge. That was like it was one of those like whoa moments, mind blown that it makes sense now why this universe was so different from the initial Homecoming movie. You're like, oh, this is such a different version of Spider-Man, but now it's like no wonder it allows itself to make sense that it is different because it's a different universe, different version that we are not familiar with, and that was cool. I really like that.
What it does too, what I think, and I don't know if they're gonna do another Spider-Man movie. I've
I'm
heard
not
both
sure.
ways that they may or may not. But if they do another Spider-Man movie, it opens up the door to get Black Costume Spider-Man. Black Costume Spider-Man is definitely darker. He has a
Right.
piece of the Venom symbiote with him, and he now again he's by himself. He's angry, and he has to figure this out. Having that symbiote with him will make a definitely different turn
Definitely. Yeah.
for Spider-Man. Now he has no Aunt May. She's not his moral compass anymore. He doesn't have, he doesn't have Ned. He doesn't have MJ. He's alone, and having a voice talk to him same way that it talked to Eddie Brock. You're gonna get a different Spider-Man. I think that's what they're setting up for. I don't know if that's the way it's gonna go, but in my prediction, that would be it's gonna bring a darker Spider-Man if we get another Spider-Man movie. I think personally, but
I agree. I'm reading up, catching up a little bit on some wiki and also some other articles I pulled up. So, in terms of the future of this Spider universe that's current right now,
yeah,
August 2019, a fourth film of the franchise was in development alongside No Way Home. In February 2021, though, Holland made a statement saying No Way Home was the final film under his contract, but he hoped to continue playing Spider-Man in the future if allowed and if asked. So I think that this would be a good way to end the franchise, but I at this point now, me personally, I'm really curious to know if it could go further. I kind of want to know if there will be like more. Whereas before, I thought, okay, this universe is cool. Like I wasn't exactly super stoked for Homecoming or its sequel, but it wasn't like I hated it either. I just wasn't, there was other cool stuff I was into with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but this one finally has gotten me into it. Now I'm like, okay, now I really want to know what happens from here. Does MJ remember Peter? Does it get darker? Because we have yet to see, this Peter get into the symbiote and all the darkness of all of that. And like you said, I think it'd be a perfect change of the tone of this franchise to go a little bit darker now that he is alone.
Yeah, and I think it also would open the door to having a Miles Morales Spider-Man show up, because now you have
Absolutely.
this dark Spider-Man doing bad things. This kid, Miles Morales, who once loved Spider-Man, is now becoming Spider-Man, and so then you have that meeting, and maybe that's where the handoff happens. There, you get that handoff moment, and you could also introduce people characters like the Prowler, which was Miles Morales's uncle, if I
Right.
remember correctly.
Right.
So you can introduce Prowler, you can introduce a Black Cat, you can introduce a lot of other characters that we weren't going to get before, because we've never seen it. We've never got a Black Cat in the Spider-Man MCU at all,
None
ever.
of them.
So
Yeah.
getting a Black Cat would be awesome. And now it would also be it would get since we don't have this version of Spider-Man with MJ, we can get the romance that we've all wanted. As a Spider-Man fan, of the Black Cat and Spider-Man getting that, and maybe that
Right.
turns that way. So maybe that's how it opens. He's chasing her down because she's a thief and whatever. She's the Catwoman of that universe,
Right.
chasing her down, and then bumps into Miles, or she's also being chased by Prowler, and now there's that conflict. And then we get the Miles Morales story coming out of that, and then it builds into this thing, and then eventually Peter has to he's realizing that this symbiote is destroying him and making him not the hero that he's becoming the villain that J. Jonah Jameson claimed he was, and even being seen with Prowler is making him look like that villain, and being seen with Black Cat is making him look like that villain. And so that's the part where Miles is going to help him get rid of the symbiote.
Right.
Symbiote gets taken away, and now we have whoever is going to take over Venom, because we're probably not going to get, you know, the we're not going to get that version of Venom. So, but I think if I remember right, Venom also goes to Flash Thompson and someone else. I can't
There is
remember
one
who.
other one. Yeah.
There's yeah.
Flash
So
Thompson and for sure one other one. I cannot think of who it
I
is.
know I've got to go look real quick, because I
Um,
know that there is another person, and it seems it's one of those things where we get that, and I think that's really what needs to happen, is we need to get that going.
I
So
agree. I like your version. I want your version.
my
um,
version is the lazy man's version of getting to all the stuff that I want in the universe.
and then I don't know. I mean, I feel that I don't know if it'll happen, and I hate to sound like a negative Nancy, but I'm thinking that it's because I think that they're pouring their energy a little bit now on their side hustle, their little baby
Yeah.
known as Into the Spider-Verse, because that was a great, great film, and now they're working on the sequel of that movie, which we already got a Miles Morales. It was a theatrical release. I don't know. I don't know if they'll want to do that again in the Prowler, and I
Well,
wish.
well, here's the only reason I think they do. Now that we have Miss Marvel, we have some of these younger characters coming out. We had the Hawkeye thing. I think having a younger version of those characters coming now is the way they're gonna do Ironheart. I know Ironheart's coming,
Right.
so we have all these things coming. I think honestly that is gonna be the way to go. They're gonna have to bring in these younger ones, and we're gonna have to get a new version of everybody. So I think that's the way to go.
I
Honestly,
read online somewhere, and I want to say it was just last night, even before this recording, but that someone stated a producer was teasing or just in a comment saying that the new Miss Marvel on Disney Plus is in the same universe as Tom Holland's Spider-Man. So there's a little connection there that could take off somewhere, and I hear the reception is doing it's very well for Miss Miss Marvel, yeah,
Miss
on
Marvel.
Disney
Yep.
Plus.
Yep.
Who knows? That'd be awesome if they could explore that. I still really want, and I hope Hollywood hears me. I still want another Spider-Man TV series. Please
I would love a
give
Spider-Man
it
TV
to
series.
me. We had it in the 90s. We had all these other ones. They were all great. Just continue these stories. It doesn't have to be a theatrical release, you know?
You're going to get people to watch them. We're all watching Obi-Wan Kenobi right now. Miss
Right.
Marvel did well. Hawkeye did well. People want the Netflix, MCU things to come back.
Right.
We already heard, we saw MCU, the Netflix Daredevil in Spider-Man. We've heard that Punisher might be coming back. We heard that we might be getting, some of those other characters back. First of all, bring Luke Cage back. I need more Luke Cage. That was one of my favorites of
As
the whole thing. I,
one
I
I
love the
didn't
Punisher,
see.
but I love it. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
I need to see that one too. There's a
it was
lot I have to
amazing.
catch up on. Speaking of cameos like Luke Cage, although he wasn't in the film, but
No.
Charlie Cox in the movie coming out. I got a little giddy. I was just like, you
I was
gotta be
like,
kidding me, Daredevil's here. That was so not what I thought was gonna happen. That was really cool. I was really nice to see Charlie Cox again and, being Matt Murdock. Um, yeah,
I was really hoping for a Daredevil cameo. I was really
I
hoping
know.
the patrolling thing where because he knows that he's Spider-Man. He understands.
Oh yeah.
But I wanted the moment of like Peter going out to patrol and Daredevil showing up like, "Hey, I'm here to look out for you." And I think he needs to say, "I'm here to look out for you." He's blind, so he's not going to look out for him.
That
But
would be funny.
I'm here, right? I'm here to look out for you, and I'm gonna mentor you, and that let's do this together. Let's keep you out of trouble, so there's no future things or whatever. That would have been great. And even if Spider-Man would have blown him off and said, "Nah, I don't need your help," or whatever, and bailed or something, that would have been
Right.
fine. But I wanted the Daredevil moment to happen where they see it, or even they're chasing the same person, and then they stop, and Spider-Man's this side, Daredevil's this side, the guy's in the middle. Which one are you gonna take, buddy? Because you got to pick one of them. They're both gonna. In all actuality, I would pick Spider-Man because I feel like Daredevil would beat the tar out of me. You
Oh
know what I'm
yeah.
saying? He's way
Yeah.
tougher. So I'd be like, listen, just web me up and leave me because I don't want to get beat up by this dude.
Yeah,
He's got
right.
horns or
The
whatever.
bad
I'm
guy
out.
just defaults to Spider-Man. Just,
Yeah,
just, I'll go
yeah,
with you.
yeah.
This
Just
other
go
guy
ahead and web me
scares me.
up. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's what I was hoping for.
the crossover thing. I think that we're going to see more of that because of what just happened here. What just is? I have yet to see the new Doctor Strange multiverse, so I
I
don't
haven't seen
have
either yet.
any. I have no idea, and I continue to avoid all spoilers.
Yep, same.
But with the concept, which I'm aware of with the trailer, obviously, I think there's going to be a lot more crossovers, a lot more multiverse weirdness, which will be great if we can get more of this. This movie is a big milestone in the sense that we're crossing. We've had crossovers in the DC world, right? We had, not crossover, but versus, Batman versus Superman. We had a mix of all these characters coming into a movie like Avengers. Now we're getting the same characters, but from a different universe. This affords to get old actors back to come back again. Personally, I felt very, very warm-hearted, I guess is the right expression, to see Tobey Maguire again. Like,
Yeah.
to see him, and I know he's older. He's still going to be that guy to me, that the way he did Peter Parker, and it was really cool to see that, and I think that the fans all unanimously will say we all love that. Even the new people that had no idea what those older movies were, I'm sure whoever did know would tell them, dude, those were cool. Just watch them again. And like, all right, I'll watch them again. And now people are revisiting those. I think that'd be great.
I think so too. I think that's where we get. And then, like I said, I also have not seen Doctor Strange, like you said, but opening the door to the multiverse of madness, to multiverses, to multi-versions of every character, and multiple worlds where those characters exist, opens the door for bringing back that stuff, like the Netflix series, like the
Right.
older series, and now opens the door, which I know this will be number three. The third version of it opens the door to like Fantastic Four
Right.
or the Silver Surfer or Galactus or all these other things that we haven't seen yet. That is a giant part of the Marvel universe, especially if you're a comic book fan. That we can now finally get, and so yes, I get that the second Fantastic Four remake was terrible. I'm sorry that that happened. I didn't make it, but it's terrible.
I like
But
how
I
you're
like.
apologizing for them.
I know. I do. I'm apologizing. I'm apologizing that someone in Hollywood thought that was a good idea. But I do. I love the first Fantastic Four. I know that there is a big push for, at least I've seen on the internet, where John Krasinski to play Mr. Fantastic, which I think
Yeah,
is a great idea. I think he
really
would be
good.
fantastic. Yeah, Reed
Yeah,
Richards. If
we
he
know
if he
he's
plays Reed
fit.
Richards,
We know he's fit enough for it.
yeah. I mean, if you watch A Quiet Place, like, that guy can do it, and he just is a likable, good kind of person.
Right.
And I also think it's funny, and I would also like to see, if they do that and they do a multiverse thing, I would like to see Chris Evans replay Johnny Storm and meet Captain America. That would be my ultimate moment
That
of
would be
like,
crazy.
ha ha ha, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that would be really cool. I hope that they do that. I want. I don't know about you if this is putting you on the spot, but for me, I will just call right now. If you have any picks, they're obviously going through a new phase of Marvel movies. So we
yep.
finished the age of um, Iron Man and the Avengers. All that is closed. We have a closed book now, more or less.
Yeah.
Captain America, all that. Now there's other characters I want to see on the big screen. And now it's still gonna get me as excited as when the very first Marvel movie came out. I just need to get some of these out. I want a Silver Surfer movie. And not
Yeah.
that it was horrible or horrendous to see him in that other Fantastic Four movie. I think it was fine for its time.
Right.
But I want his own film. There was a great comic, and that was amazing. I want to see Nova, which was very much hinted at in Guardians of the Galaxy, but we don't
I thought
have
we were gonna get that
Nova.
actually.
I thought it
Yeah.
was going to happen. I really banked on it, and it didn't.
Yeah.
Okay, get me to put him in a movie. I want to see that character come to life. I finally got my wish with Moon Knight, which I still have to work on, but I think that if you're not going to get a movie of these characters, do another Moon Knight series-esque show. Put him on a show like Daredevil.
Yeah.
If you're not going to do a full movie, which I get because Hollywood's thinking, well, we don't know if this will take off. We don't know if there's Nova fans or Silver Surfer fans. So just throw them on a show to start. See if
Yeah.
that progresses somewhere between what I would say.
Right. I think what I want to see next, I know they've hinted at bringing the X-Men to the MCU. I do want to see that. But if we bring the X-Men, bring X-Force, bring Excalibur,
Right.
bring the Starjammers, for
Don't be
goodness
afraid,
sake.
Hollywood. Don't be afraid. Bring out the big guns. Bring
Yeah.
the one
Do you know
the side characters.
do you remember the Starjammers? Do you remember the Starjammers
Oh yeah.
from yeah. Bring That's what I thought we were gonna eventually get. I was like, there's gotta be a Starjammers cameo in one of these
I
Guardians of the
thought the
Galaxy
same
movies.
thing as you. Yeah.
Has not happened yet. So I'm a little bummed about that. I would like to see that. I really the one character I want to see, man, now I'm gonna go crazy because I'm gonna forget. The villain for the X-Men, Red Eyes,
You're talking about Mr. Sinister.
Mr. Sinister.
Yep.
That is what I want to see come to the big screen. I don't know who would
I
play
agree.
it because I can't think of my mind who would be a great Mr. Sinister, but he was one of the biggest villains in all of the 90s for the X-Men, and also I'd love to see the Hellfire Club in real life.
There's so much in terms of X-Men. If we're gonna go into that, I
Yeah,
I
I
mean
know.
I
It gets
oh, it's so yeah. There's so much to be said about it that I am friends with Julia and Eric Lewald. They're the creators of X-Men the animated series.
yeah.
I've talked to them so much about this that they're tired of hearing of it. But I said I really want your guys' story arcs to be a movie. Give me.
Yes.
We got Days of Future Past, okay, and it wasn't exactly that way, but okay, that's fine. Is in terms of the show, but I want to see an X-Men movie where Sentinels are everywhere. We got the one, but like, okay, we got that in the movie. That'd be amazing to have these gigantic Terminator guys going around. Mr. Sinister, Starjammers, X-Force, X Factor, which they kind of did a little bit of that in the second Deadpool movie.
Yeah.
And I think that Deadpool is the perfect segue in. I think that Hollywood.
That's what I keep thinking is,
Yeah.
if they really merge Deadpool into the MCU the right way, we're gonna get all of those storylines. And the other part of that is we're gonna have so many great characters that you're gonna be like, okay. I also would love to see, and I know that they hinted at the retirement of Hawkeye at the end of the Hawkeye series, but Hawkeye goes on to one point to run the Avengers West Coast. I would love to see that LA version of the Avengers come
I
to
do
pass. And
remember
they,
that. Yeah.
yeah, and they did talk about having. I think Wonder Man is coming to.
Yes. Yeah.
So that is a good gateway to get to where we want to go with Avengers West Coast. So they're opening doors. The question is, will they put all those things together so we get what we want? I know. I'm sorry, I'm nerding out a lot here, guys.
I know, no, this is exactly why we have you on the show. But no, I think that there is also one other thing to be said. I feel, and this is looking from the outside point of view, I think people in general, let's just not say fans, but let's say people in general are getting a little oversaturated of superhero stuff. And I want to address that actually to our fans and to people listening. I do agree in some regard, but here's the thing, and I think that what would remedy this: take a long break from these films. If you're just roll with me on this, I think a lot more shows can take place to appeal to the certain crowds. Consuming this at home and then being able to continue this going without it being saturating, oversaturating your theater experience because there's just so many. Yeah, and I get that. Like when I introduced more or less most of these films to a lot of people I know, you have to cover like 22 plus movies. There's a lot. So maybe a nice little break from the theater release and put them direct to streaming might be a good idea. Keeps it burning on the back burner a little bit, but it's still going strong.
I agree. And here's the other thing, guys. There is so many good secondary things coming out. Like, okay, if you haven't watched The Boys, if you are like, I'm burnt out on superhero movies, The Boys is the antithesis of superheroes. Like,
Right.
it's literally making fun of that whole thing and making it fun. And Garth Ennis, who was known for The Punisher and did some of the best Punisher stories of all time and created some of the best things we've seen, he makes fun of all that.
Right.
That's perfect for those kind of things. You have Sandman about to come out, which is again not technically a superhero movie. Yes, DC made it. Yes, whatever, but it's not, and
It's not right.
that's enough to get you there. I'm trying to think. I know there's something else that I'm missing now, but there's so many things that are anti superhero that you could still watch. And I know that Todd McFarlane has talked about rebooting Spawn. Like I
Right.
love the original Spawn. I watch stuff. That's really anti superhero. Like Spawn is not a superhero. He's not.
Yeah, he's anything but a superhero.
Yeah, at the core. I mean, yes, we all go, oh, he's a superhero novel. He's a part of this, but it's like, okay, great. Although, again, if we ask for wish list outside of Marvel, which I know is the one pushing everything, I'm waiting for an Image universe to occur.
I
don't know
agree.
why that has not happened
Wildcat,
yet.
Spawn, like there's so much to
Savage
be.
Dragon.
Savage
Yeah.
Dragon would be really cool. Yeah.
I mean, and Savage Dragon as a TV series would be the best because that was ultimately the way that Eric Larson did that series was 100% show of the week style writing. Like you really
Very
could see
episodic.
this as
Right.
episodic, where you
Yeah.
and big arcs. So we have this happening in these first issues, then this arc, and the big thing. Spawn was constantly changing, but it would be episodic as well. It'd be great,
Right.
but I think that's too dark to do. I don't know. I liked the cartoon on HBO back in the day, so I have no idea.
You say that, but we have shows
I
like
know.
The Punisher, Daredevil. That's pretty dark.
Yeah, but when I think of that, the Punisher kills people in a way that like we get. Spawn does it in a way where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened. He ripped this dude's spine
Right.
out. It was, it's like we get Predator-esque style
Right.
things, and that's hard.
I
to
mean, you get a
watch
character.
weekly.
You get a character from hell. You're gonna get a little bit of that. But I agree. It is a little hard hitting with Spawn, but the story is
Yeah.
insanely good because it's such a deep level of again anti superheroism
Yeah.
to try to. It's almost like you're trying to redeem something that's never redeemable, and you're all these dark elements involved with post-traumatic effects with Al Simmons. I mean, there's just so much, and we're getting completely off
Yeah,
topic.
yeah.
But it's we just did a little multiverse ourselves. But I think that it would be great. I think that going back to Spider-Man: No Way Home, I would like to see it continue. I would like to see another, if it's outside of Spider-Man, another multiverse-esque sort of take place of whatever the story arc. as a reason to bring in other characters we know and test the waters to see if they're worthy for a show or a movie. If people love it, I think that would be great.
The only problem with that is they did Morbius, right, and it was not good.
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
have to let Marvel and Disney, unfortunately, sorry Sony, you have to let them helm this because otherwise you're gonna get more Morbiuses and nobody's gonna
right.
want to watch this stuff. And you're gonna saturate this and make it something unpalatable to everyone. And they're gonna go, I'm not gonna watch anything that deals with the Spider-Man universe
You'll turn them
because
off, right?
yeah, yeah. So I mean, literally, if it wasn't for like Shazam, I probably would have turned away from the DC universe already because some of those movies were just not as good as they could have been. You know,
Right.
there was so much infighting that Justice League wasn't what it could have been or what it should have even been. You know, um, I'm excited for Black Adam because it looks like they're going the way of Shazam. Like Shazam is going to lead their universe. It looks like now, and
Yeah.
that because the thing about Superman is that he's not human, so he doesn't have human-esque qualities. You want to be like he's a god, and so it's
Right.
hard to for us as people to feel like we get what Superman or that Superman gets what we're going through, right? Where
Right.
you get Batman gets what we're going through, Spider-Man gets what we're going through, Iron Man, even as a billionaire, gets what we're going through. It's hard, and as long as they don't go that route, I think they'll be good. So Sony, if you're listening, don't make any more movies.
Right.
Merge with Disney and let them make that in the MCU, and let's have that. You can make all the money in the world if you do that, but if you do it your way, as you found out from Morbius, you're not going to make the money. Sorry,
Eat
guys.
eat some humble pie, and in that pie, eat a little bit of Disney, and you guys will be fine.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look at the difference between Venom movies. Not that I didn't like the Venom movies, I liked them,
Yeah.
but meeting this and the Spider-Man movies.
Right.
I mean, there's a huge difference there. I mean,
Huge.
they're sorry.
If it doesn't,
Also, I do want to see Carnage and Spider-Man fight, though. By the way, just so we're all clear on that.
if it doesn't have Kevin Foggy, I don't want any.
I mean, sadly, that is the way I kind of
It's
feel.
really what it is. It's
I
Kevin
know,
Foggy.
it is.
Jesus
It
Christ of Marvel comics and movies. He is our savior.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
are
well,
not
he's
worthy.
he's the Joe Quesada of the film version of Marvel, right? Joe Quesada ran the best, at least what I thought was one of the best eras of Marvel comics. So
It was probably my favorite
yeah,
run ever. Yeah.
so that's all I'm saying, guys. Sorry,
Joe Quesada, if you're listening, do something. Do something
but
now.
I think he retired now. Didn't he leave? He left Marvel. I'm pretty sure. I think.
Hey, but maybe if paid enough, he'd come back
Ooh,
to the
ooh,
cinematic
hey,
universe.
go to Image Comics and start the Image, cinematic universe. Go there, Joe. You know those guys.
All right, so in terms of rating, we have yet to come to a sort of rating scale on Making a Geek, but I think I'm just going to do a numbered tier 1 to 10
Okay.
because I think that's pretty fair. So with this movie, Spider-Man No Way Home, what number would you give it and why, James? And we'll make sure to get my review too.
I think I give it an 8, and I give it an 8 not because that's not great. It's not great. I'm calling the first one my 10 because that's the basis of everything. But I didn't get two things that I wanted out of this movie. One, I didn't get the Rhino. Two, I didn't get as much Hannibal Buress as I wanted for the other two movies. So with those two things, it gets an 8. Unfortunately, I,
Okay.
so.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's an awkward reason to give it an 8. Hannibal Buress and no Rhino. I get it. I get that. That's like little complaints, but other than that, we're good.
I will give this a 9, and that's even surprising to me. The reason why I'm giving it a 9 is because of all obvious reasons stated, but where it didn't make the perfect 10 mark, I think, is it's a little 50-50 complaint. It's not even a complaint. It's just a preference. I wish I would have had more of our Spider-Men, of course. But I really, to be honest, my major 10 is you have a multiverse, and you didn't want to maybe just throw in Miles Morales, even if it was post credits. Come on, I know he's gotten into the Spider-Verse, but I'm not asking for a full scene with him, but just a quick nod to him. Or if you want to stretch it even further, I would have died to have Spider-Man 2099. But That's the only
Yeah.
reason I'm not giving it a full 10. If it was any of those two things, I would come in full 10 all the way.
Could you imagine that post-credit scene where you just see the Nikes land? Like you just see them land, and then that's it. Like that, you don't have to show any, just the Nikes landing. You know they're Miles Nikes,
You're gonna
and
know
that's
it's him.
it. Yeah, and you're done. I'm in. Like I'm like, yeah, let's see that. I want to, and I do want to see a live action Miles Morales. I loved Into the
Yeah,
Spider Verse. That was great, but I want to see the live action version of this. I have to
I really
see.
do want that too.
I want the Miles. I want that representation to come to screen. I know there was people who were like, "We don't need this," but this is the Spider-Man. I don't care what you guys think. More Spider-Mans, more everything is fantastic because then there's stories that we can tell that we can't tell because of Peter Parker is from this part of New York and he's not used to that world, and we can get Miles' world. It's like everyone who complain about other Batmans. No, I want Batman Incorporated. I want to see a Chinese Batman, a Japanese Batman, a South American Batman. Like I want to see all the Batmans, like every version of Batman that we can't get with Bruce Wayne because Bruce Wayne can't be everywhere at once. Let's have a million Batmans. I don't care.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think if someone's smart, they will transition the Batman movies into Batman Incorporated, and then we'll get like 10 Batmans in a movie, and I would love that. That would just, okay, yeah, let's do this 100%.
Well, hopefully DC will make its way do something like that one day.
They won't.
So
I
there
don't
you
have
have
hope
it.
for that.
There you have it, folks. James says a 9 or 8. I say a 9. Tell us your thoughts on Instagram or our website about what you thought of the whole franchise of Spider-Man. I really would love to talk to somebody about that. I always talk to you guys at a con, but I'd rather talk to you guys even online. I mean, James and I like company, so.
Yeah. And listen, Marvel, if you want someone to go and write some stuff for you, if you want a Miles Morales movie or you want something, you hit me up. I'll do it. I'll write it. I'll take half of the normal fee. How about that?
You'll be fine. You'll be fine with half.
I'll be fine with half. I'll take a third.
I
just wanted to come into the world, right? And Todd McFarlane, if you're listening, and Eric Larson and all you guys, and you want to do an Image Comics universe, hit me up. I'm down. I'll write Shadowhawk. I know that wasn't that most popular guy. I'll write it. I'll write Deathblow. I'd love to write Deathblow, to be honest with you guys. So there you go.
Hungry
Wetworks.
man.
All right, Wetworks. Whatever. I'm in.
Give him some writing to do. James, where can people find you on social media?
I am at the Clean Comedy Podcast on Instagram. That's my big thing, and then you can go to jamesdcrevison.com for anything else, and all my stuff's connected there.
Awesome. You can find me at Damien with an A_DeCarlo on Instagram. Collectively, you can find us at makingageek.com. Until next time, everybody. What do we say, James? Here, what do we say?
I don't remember, actually. It's been too long.
You're fired. Geek. Keep calm and geek on.
Geek on.
Good night, everybody.
Yay.
Yay.